him. Hello, people saying hi. We're ready to roll. Here it comes. 3, 2, and... It is Locked On Jazz for the 6th of February. A trade deadline looms. A 5-game losing streak lingers. A very poor performance by the Utah Jazz last night to discuss and what has taken place. It's all coming up. Plus your questions on a live edition of Locked On Jazz. Pow! How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way more fun to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Today's a tough one, though. Last night's a bad loss. We'll talk about that loss. We'll talk about that performance. Take your questions. Look toward the trade deadline if anything happens to break while we're live on the air, and see what's taking place with the Jazz. I took the time last night to re-watch the game. That's where I want to start with today's program and kind of break down what I think I saw in our 5th straight loss last night for the Utah Jazz. The biggest thing to me was just actually some of the little plays. Some of the plays that you've got to make to win games. Up 6, about 6 minutes left in the ball game. Conley's just hit Donovan for an alley-oop. Rudy's just had a dunk. Jokic takes a 3 that he doesn't really want to take. And Torrey Craig out-hustles Joe Ingles and Jordan Clarkson for the basketball. Lot of those type of plays. I think the first place you have to start, which doesn't make us feel any better, is that was one of the most awesome performances by the Denver Nuggets. And their post-game reaction to it was they knew it. But that's, I think, the most disconcerting thing. They're playing with some heart and soul and spirit that we didn't play with. That's undeniable. They have something to them right now. They have a little bit of a, hey, we're down to 7 guys, let's go do it. And they reacted that way after the game in a manner of just that there's a little something to that Denver Nugget team. And I don't know that we actually have that to us right now. And I think that's probably the part that's the most disconcerting to us. If you kind of look through that game, and particularly late, they just make great play after great play. We make some not very good plays, but honestly, when you watch it and you look at it, Denver's making incredible plays. If we walk through the final few minutes, Donovan hits a jumper to make it 95-91. With 3:20 left, Mike Conley drives on a pick and roll and throws a very poor pass to Rudy Gobert for a turnover. Okay, that was a mistake. Then they run a Jokic-Morris pick and roll. Conley gets caught on the top side of Jokic. He rolls, and we've got ourselves a 95-93 game. Donovan on the next play is coming around the weak side for kind of his old pin down. Maybe he takes a little wide route. Frankly, you know what happens a little bit is Gary Harris just outworks Donovan Mitchell, gets in position, knocks the ball away, and gets a fast break. Or maybe it was Dozier. I thought it was Harris, but my scoreboard says it was Dozier. And goes the other way with it for a free throw to make it 95-94. Joe Ingles drives. Nice play by Joe off some good action. We actually moved the ball in that possession. And Dozier slides under Joe for a charge. Those are really... Conley's pass to Gobert wasn't great, but it was defended perfectly by Denver. Gary Harris or Dozier's play, I thought it was, if I have the right play, maybe I'm off a play here, was just great effort. Kind of incredible in that regard. So Donovan comes through. Maybe this is a different... Dozier is a different one. Harris is another play I'm talking about, but it's still accurate. It's just great effort play. We just didn't make it. Donovan... We run a play for Donovan coming across. Dozier reaches around from behind, knocks it free for a steal. Loose ball foul on Donovan. Sends him to the line. Jokic is the clutchest player in the league. Jamal Murray takes a three, misses. Torrey Craig gets an offensive rebound. 15 seconds later, Jokic takes with 1 second on the shot clock a tough fadeaway, but he makes that shot and hits. Some of this is just great play by Denver, which is too bad because we should be making the same great plays. And just a level of effort and fight that they had in that game, which is that soul and spirit and grit that they have right now. We didn't show it. Like give Little Ways, give them a ton of credit for this. We have a terrible possession on the next, I think it's on the next one down. Bogdanovic forces a really bad three. Jokic misses. We get a rebound. With 8 seconds left, Conley misses. You look, in the middle of that is a play in which we get a miss on a Jokic jump shot somewhere in here, or on a Murray shot. Murray misses a 9-footer. Bogdanovic gets a rebound. Murray misses a 12-footer. There's a scramble and a fight for the rebound because Denver's frankly out-fighting us for the rebound. Murray kind of falling to the ground, throws it up off the rim. We get it. We're up 95-94. Monty Morris just hustles behind Donovan Mitchell, gets behind him and knocks the ball away in the open court. Like, some of these plays are not great plays by the Jazz. Other of these plays are just Denver did everything you'd want a team to do with just incredible fight and effort and grit and kind of to Rudy's comment that like maybe there's an expectation to win. I don't know if there needs to be a reminder on how hard it is to win, but that seemed to me to be clear. And the other one, give Denver credit. I mean, it's 90-81 with 6 minutes left and they don't have any players. And they just didn't roll. 92-84 with 5:27 left, and they didn't roll. Donovan takes a poor three at 5:05. I got to tell you what, watching Donovan in this game, part of me wonders whether or not that early pick in the game knocked his cobwebs in some weird way. He just didn't have it. Like, he didn't have the joyousness. He didn't have the bounce. He didn't have the energy he usually has. I'm not sure he didn't get just blasted. Opening first or second play, he picked somebody up 94 feet. Jokic just crushed him. And I heard, Donovan went out afterwards shooting, which means if he was, didn't feel well, he probably wouldn't have done that. But he didn't look right all game. He wasn't particularly good. In his usual way, but he also just didn't look right. I mean, 8 of 24 shooting is one thing. He didn't look right. Some of the things you'd think were wrong with us weren't. We threw 326 passes. We just didn't. Our pick and roll game was just a mess. Our drive game just didn't work. That was an offensive loss last night, to some extent. The Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert pick and roll wasn't very good, but Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, 16 picks led to 2 points. We got 9 points off other stuff, but only got 2 points. They continue. It was interesting is that when they were flipping Torrey Craig between players, so Torrey Craig shut down Donovan in Denver. When Jamal Murray was on Donovan last night, Donovan was okay. When Torrey Craig was on him, he was better, but he wasn't great. He shot 35%, which is kind of what he shot for the whole game, and didn't make some of the shots he would usually make. Torrey Craig went under a pick. Donovan did the right thing on the left side and fired a three in the second half. So I don't have a great, brilliant explanation. Let's see. Breaking, just came in. Miami and Oklahoma City could reach a deal on Gallinari. There's still time to make this 3-team for those. So, all right. So Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters, and James Johnson to Memphis for Andre Iguodala, Solomon Hill, and Jay Crowder is that final deal coming across right now. Sorry, just lost a train of thought there. So that, I left last night. I mean, we just didn't make plays, right? And so there's all these plays you can find where frankly, we got the ball up 95-94, and Monty Morris runs from behind and knocks the ball out of Donovan's hands in the open court. Like, either someone's got to tell Donovan's got to be more tight with the basketball, but we're up one with the ball with 1:17 left. Our possession with 40 seconds left when Bogdanovich tries to go one-on-one on the left side and takes a contested three was not very good. The answer to some extent in a lot of people's minds, well, Mike Conley. Mike Conley was our best player last night. With that said, it is different with Mike Conley. Mike Conley's bringing the ball up the floor. Mike Conley's initiating the offense. It's different. We're a different team with Mike Conley. Does that mean, that's what we've built? Mike Conley was pretty good last night. 21 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. But there's no question, if you watch us right now, we're a different basketball team with Mike Conley. Different does not mean bad. It just means different. And I'll dig into a little bit of that and then start taking your questions, and then we'll talk some trade deadline as we continue. Today's show brought to you by our good friends at Shamrock Auto. Shamrock Auto, Rob, Taylor, and the crew out there have done a great job. Rob got into this business to make everything easier. He hired Brady Kimball, his technician who had 40 years experience, to go be his buyer, so he made sure that every single one of the cars out there that he had was absolutely fabulous and made sure that you had great experiences. He's got the reviews to back it up, which makes him very, very happy. His goal is better cars, no drama, great pricing. And his favorite thing is he can get you any truck or sedan you want. Most of the cars are 6 to 12 months old, 5 to 20,000 miles, Suburbans, Yukons, big SUVs, 40, all those kind of things out there. Utah County assault vehicles for you. But his favorite thing is people come from out of state or people that come back to him and give him a call and say, hey, I'm looking for this. Can you go get it for me? Give Rob a call. Rob's a fun guy to talk to. He's probably just down as he could ever be right now. He's a huge Jazz fan. 80 combined years of experience in the automotive business for the group over there at Shamrock Auto. They'll make it quick. They'll make it easy. They'll make it simple. 801-319-2250. That's 801-319-2250. That's 801-319-2250. Today's show is also brought to you by Spavia. Over in Sandy at 104 South, I went over and visited the crew over at Spavia. Had a super nice time. Their concept at Spavia is to make sure that you get the full spa resort boutique experience, that great relaxation escape at half the price. That's what they want to make sure you get. They've got facials and body wraps and all waxing and all those type of things that you can get for a robust group of that for if your wife wants that for Valentine's Day. They also have couples massages for you. They have sports massages, deep tissue massages. They've got a hot stone massage I'm going to have to try out here coming up a little bit. So Danette and the crew there do a wonderful job and can help you out with whether it's, pure relaxation, deep tissue. If you're looking for the Valentine's Day gifts, we've got a special deal for you. Go stop by Spavia and tell them that you're with Locked On Jazz, or give Spavia a call and buy 2 gift certificates. You get the third one for free. I guess it's gift cards in this day and age. Gift certificates is kind of an outdated concept from me. But yes, so if you buy 2 $50 gift cards, you end up with one of them for free, so you can go buy one for yourself, buy 2 for your wife, whatever it might be. Win big opportunities and be very, very happy. It's Spavia. It's 104th South State Street. Stop by, give them a call, tell them you're with Locked On, and you'll get that special discount. It's Spavia in Sandy. All right, I want to get to some of the questions, but let's address the Mike Conley kind of talk here. So there's a few things. One, don't underestimate how different the opponents are right now than they were when Mike Conley wasn't playing. Now, with that said, we're on a 5-game losing streak that if we were good, we should have won 4 of the 5. Right? We should have beat Houston without their guys at home. I generally think we should have won in San Antonio. Probably not totally, but to some extent. Probably lose in Denver, win against Portland, and win last night against a shorthanded Denver team. So this isn't good. Let's not kid ourselves about it. And the fact that the offense failed last night is a little strange because the offense has been what's good. There was also an element last night that when they decided to take Bogdanovich out of the game, which a defense can come close to doing, they decided to, in addition, they decide, Donovan's having a tough night. Mike becomes really, really valuable, right? That's where Mike becomes incredibly valuable to have him on the floor because he does other things for this team. Now, the offense right now, if you look at all the numbers, like Mike, the offense is 3 points less good per 100 possessions with Mike on the floor. The defense is one. Those are all true. Again, I think you got to look at like who we played in that middle stretch, and I'm guessing that Mike Conley would have looked fine. But with that said, it is different. I don't know that different has to be bad, and I do think it's taking some adjustment, and there's going to be some bumps in the road, and I actually am not sure that anybody in the Jazz, coaching staff or probably front office is that surprised by this. That once Mike came back, there was a rebuild to this team that actually has to happen, and there's going to be some bumps in the road. One of them's Joe. Joe's got to play better. He's not very good right now. Like it was interesting last night is because he did some things that were just awesome. So he pushed the tempo on a bunch of rebounds and got us out and going at an awesome rate. Like, it was incredible to watch what Joe did there. And then there are just a lot of possessions now where Joe comes down, gets one touch, gets off the ball, and doesn't see it again. And that's new. Right? Last night, Conley has 82 touches. Donovan has 73 touches. Joe has 67 touches. It's a little different. And so Joe's going to have to figure out how that works. Conley is a part of this team. If we're going to be great, he's going to be a part of it. And we got 3 primary ball handlers. And so it's an adjustment. There are enough possessions to go around. There's not anything crazy in that regard. Everyone should be able to get their kind of usual amount of possessions. But it's going to be a little interesting for these guys, and they're either going to sulk it all the way into a disaster, or they're going to buck up and deal with it. But right now, that soul, that inner, whatever we're talking about, isn't quite there. There's no need. I mean, it's obvious if you watch it. It's too bad. I don't know if, we look at time of possession or touches per game. I think that would probably tell us how things are different. I'll try to do that for you for tomorrow's show. I'll have that for you for the Friday show with a recap of the trade deadline and the rest. All right, let's get to your questions and your thoughts. There's 2 different things here. There's the trade deadline and as it's going on, as we move to within 2.5 hours of the trade deadline. My overall take is kind of what I said yesterday. The Jazz don't have the assets right now to call up somebody and get a deal done, right? They don't have the ability to call Memphis and say, we want Andre Iguodala, here's Justice Winslow. We don't have that player that we're willing to move. And so that's a pretty big difference in what some other teams could do. And so what the Jazz have done is, they've made known what they're interested in. And now in the next 2 hours, somebody may come back to the Jazz and say, okay, we're ready to do a deal. But there's not a lot that the Jazz can do to move that meter. Do I expect Ed Davis to be moved today? Probably not, for 2 reasons. One, Ed is more important to this team kind of in the locker room, around the guys, what he brings, than I think anyone who's not around the team would recognize. 2, I think, in the sense of if you're rolling with Tony Bradley, having Ed Davis as a security blanket's a pretty good one to have. And the third one I would say in that regard is that because he has another year on his contract, it's not an easy deal for the front office to make. So it's not entirely that they're keeping Ed Davis because that's the number one desire. There's a lot of good reasons to keep Ed Davis, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing to move him either with the other year in his contract. Landon Pillar, with Conley back in the starting lineup, does it seem like Joe is not as effective? There's just no question about it. Joe is off his game, and I don't have any idea as a player what that is that Joe's experiencing and how difficult that is for him. With that said, and with understanding to that, like, he's got to play better for this team to be good, and this team's going to have Mike Conley. So whatever the lack of touches or the lack of pick and rolls or whatever it is that's got him, there's a lot of possessions now where he, watching early third quarter, like he's coming down the floor on back-to-back possessions and not touching. And then he is coming off a handoff, he's getting and maybe he's flipping it to Rudy and getting it back, and then there's just not as much tactical ball handling time for him as there was. I'll be interested to go look it up. I'll look it up what his time of possession is. With that said, so that's my understanding, and now you got to move forward. If the team's going to be good, Joe's got to be good in that role. What are the solutions for consistent offensive rebounding surrender? It feels like it's a constant every game. From Jesse Dunn on Facebook. What's interesting about that, Jesse, is we're actually a pretty good defensive rebounding team, but late in games when teams are crashing, it's an issue. I think one of our problems, we don't run enough. We're 30th in the league in transition opportunities, so teams kind of know that they can come go get us in the fast break when we're and so we've got it when we do get the defensive rebound. I think the first thing is we've got to start exploiting people with a little bit more transition opportunities so that if they're crashing the offensive glass on it, they pay for it the other way. Let me be just totally honest watching the last few games on this. Bojan Bogdanovic is just not a good rebounder. Okay? He does a million other things great. We probably knew that when we looked at his statistics coming in. He puts a body on a guy. He does everything he's supposed to do. The effort is there. He just doesn't get the rebound. Like, it's just not, whether it's, he's got his body on the guy and he gets pushed too far underneath and then they go grab the rebound, whether it's he's got his body on the guy and then he just doesn't go up can't get off the body to go up. Whatever the skill set is, it's just not something he does well. He's a great shooter. He's a pretty good ball handler for a 4. He's gets to the rim beautifully. He's right. He does a million things great. This is not one of them, right? Like, not every player can be complete. So, if you look at it, we knew this coming in. His rebounding percentage last year was 7%, which means that when he's on the floor, he gets 7% of all rebounds. That's really low. If everyone got equal, it'd be 10%. On the defensive glass, last year was his best rebounding year at 12.7. This year it's 11.1. That's for, if he's really kind of our power forward, that's pretty low. And that's an issue. So he's, when people are, there's two things going on. People are pulling Rudy out and then not bringing Rudy to the ball because they realize that, that's a win for us if they bring Rudy to the ball. And then the secondary thing that we're seeing take place is the fact that you're seeing, that when Rudy's then not down for the rebound is we don't have great rebounders. Royce is our second best rebounder, and his rebounding percentages are pretty good for his position. But, also he's not on the floor all the time now that we have Mike Conley back and Mike Conley's on the floor. So we're going to have to figure that out. I think it's going to be hard for us to not close with Royce O'Neal. On the other end, Royce O'Neal's not shooting the ball great right now, and so then all of a sudden there's some areas where Royce is not, Royce is not being guarded the same way and it impacts the offense. On a defensive rebounding percentage, according to Cleaning the Glass, Royce O'Neal for a wing player, now we're using him as kind of a sort of big, so it's a little misleading, but for a wing player, Royce O'Neal is in the 93rd percentile for defensive rebounding. Okay, so he's an elite level for his position as a wing player, an elite level rebounder. It's a little advantageous that they call him a wing, not a forward. Okay, contrast that to Bojan Bogdanovic, who Cleaning the Glass calls a forward, which is a tougher group to rebound. Bojan Bogdanovic is in the 14th percentile in defensive rebounding. Okay, so Bojan is a terrific player, but his rebounding is not his strength. And that is one of the, and you saw it last night. He would get in on guys and then he would get cut up. Today's show is brought to you by Intercap Lending. Steve Carter and the crew over at Intercap. Intercap's one of my favorite stories since they've been with Locked On. I love to take probably more credit, but when they joined us, Josh Romney had brought the company back to Utah, employed at the time. I was looking at my notes the other day. I have there's 190 people in Utah that are being employed by that number is tenfold now, probably. I don't know if that's true. They now have 15 branches from St. George to Logan, Tooele, and Vernal. They're growing. Why are they growing? Because they get deals done. 2019, they've doubled the amount of work that they did in 2018 by half year mark. Now, as we move into 2020, they keep getting better and better. Why? Because of guys like Steve Carter. Steve Carter is your Locked On Jazz loan officer. He's who I used. We've had numerous Locked On people use it, and it's an amazing experience. Give Steve Carter a call, 385-800-8528. That's 385-800-8528. Steve Carter, if you just run through the various reviews we've had from Locked On people, it's always the same thing. Most responsive, best experience. Brad Hickman. Intercap Lending has been the best experience I've had in refinance of a home loan. Steve Carter gave detailed options, custom for my situation. The loan process was made easy by the experience, knowledge, timeliness, and personal nature, Steve, and other members at Intercap. That's what Intercap Lending does. That's what Steve Carter does. He's your loan officer. Tell him you're Locked On. You'll get the corporate rate, so we'll save you money as well. 385-800-8528. That's 385-800-8528. Intercap Lending, NMLS number 190465, 190465, intercaplending.com. All right, Instagram, I haven't touched on you. A lot of questions about Joe's struggles. I think we've touched on that pretty well. So it's interesting. This is a comment that we're getting a lot. I like Mike, but it's definitely he's definitely not the issue here. The other guys need to step up. I think that let's instead of placing blame. Last night was an offensive night. The offense has been pretty good before. Really what we're seeing a little bit is this yin and this yang right now. So they go and work on their defense for a bunch of days. The defense was pretty good last night. Now, it should have been. They were short some guys and playing a non-NBA player, but the defense was pretty good last night. And then they had a bad offensive night, which is weird. There was a stretch in the game in the third quarter where I thought we started to take a bunch of my turn shots. I will say that. Clarkson came in, hit a bunch of shots. I think he went one-on-one on back-to-back possessions. Bojan came off a pick, fired a three that was a play call for Bojan, but I didn't think it was a very good shot. I don't remember what the next possession was, but I thought it was, hey, I finally got to touch the ball, and I'm going to shoot. I thought there was a little of that going on in the third quarter last night, that there was a moment where I probably have a hard time finding it. I could try for a second here. It's never good to try to find the play-by-play and read it and figure out if you got it. But that was my feeling. We were up, kind of had the game in the balance, and I thought we had a little chance there where we were up by 8 or 9, and then we just kind of fell into that. Donovan hits a shot at 73-66. I don't think I'm going to find it. Donovan misses it. Donovan misses a few in a row. Clarkson hits a jump. George Niang wasn't very good last night. There's just a lot of pieces to the puzzle, right? George turned it over on back-to-back possessions offensively. Went 1 of 5 shooting. That's a hurt. Tony Bradley kind of steps forward on the mid-range jumper and doesn't have an impact on it. Someone's asking, why is Jordan Clarkson not closing the game? Who's he closing instead of? Would be my question. You'd have to ask. So you're going to Royce is already taking a hit. Now you're going to have Joe take a hit there as well. That's that would be a tough one. Polish Jazz on Instagram says it's weird to have a 3-and-D guy and Royce being a bench player. That seems rare. Aren't bench players usually scorers? What is the benefit to letting the opposing team get hot early? I guess in theory, the value of Royce is he doesn't use a lot of possessions. And so he plays D. But again, so who are you? Joe Ingles, who played so incredibly well in the starting lineup prior to this little burst here. Are you not starting him? So what is it you've got to have the counter to these things in what you're doing. So if you want to start Royce O'Neal, then Joe Ingles is coming back off the bench. Really hard to get 30 minutes out of a guy if he's coming off the bench. It's really hard. And particularly a 30-year-old who you then, if you're going to do it, you're probably playing him 2 12-minute stretches, which is a lot. If you just think about it, if you don't start the first 6 minutes of the first and third, you only have 36 available minutes for you to play. And then you only have, if you're trying to play 30, you're playing 30 of 36. How are you doing that in the realm of a rotation? That is not an easy concept. With other teams signing the league to extensions right now, do you think the Jazz could do this with Clarkson to avoid losing him this summer in free agency? The Jazz could if they want to. It's a good question from Scott Lambert. The other thing that's happened right now, by the way, is there's just going to be no free agent market out there in this offseason. Like, I think with Memphis filling up their cap space with Justice Winslow, and somebody else last night Atlanta filling up their cap space with Dwayne Dedman. There's I think there might only be 2 teams with cap space in the offseason. So I don't know what market Clarkson's going to have, but you could, and for that reason, you could. I don't think you need to do it today, though. There's definitely a correlation between Joe Ingles and Mike Conley's usage. Period touches. Glad you're going to look into it tomorrow. Look forward to it. Thank you, Parker. Appreciate it. Did Donovan adopt the Mamba mentality? I guess he went and shot extra. But you know what? Donovan puts in a lot of extra work. He just doesn't make a big deal of it. That was the gym that was available to him last night. But when we're on the road, Donovan goes and does a lot of shooting. Rudy goes and does a lot of work. These guys do a lot of work on the road. And so, that's not that crazy different. They don't do it after games very often, but they do it a lot. We get into town. Rudy's goes straight to the gym almost every time we get off a plane in the hotel. Donovan goes and shoots. So does Rudy. So these guys do a lot of work. Another Instagram. I love Joe and would love to have him retiring with the Jazz. However, do you think our ceiling could increase with a potential Ingles trade? I mean, do you think we could get a better player out there? Joe's really a unique player that brings a tremendous amount to the table. He's had 4 or 5 bad games in a row, but I mean, there aren't a lot of players in the league that do what Joe Ingles does at his size, the way he plays. It's perfect for our system. So I don't know that we can get better than a good Joe. I mean, sure, if you get Paul George, and that, drove Joe crazy when we all talked about that for a year. I think maybe Paul, that would do it, but you're talking, I think Joe was ranked as like top 70 player in the league or top 50 player in the league by ESPN this year, and I think that's probably accurate. We just got to get Joe back. Like, he's just not great. He just hasn't been very good the last few days shooting. He had 7 assists last night, and I thought he made some brilliant plays when he really pushed the tempo and did some great things. And we'll look at it for tomorrow's show. Like, I think his touches are way down. I think it's a pretty considerable adjustment for him. That doesn't, like, you can't sulk and you can't pout. And I'm not saying but like, you got to play, but I do think it's an adjustment. I think we have to be a little understanding that these guys are not robots. Why are we not playing with heart and soul? The Clippers are trading. Let's see what we just got here. The Clippers are trading Derek Walton to Atlanta for cash. Okay, so they cleared a roster spot. So maybe that's a precursor to another deal. That's a Woj bomb. Why are we not playing with heart and soul? I think we're probably not comfortable. Like, I think some of the adjustments we're talking about is taking that out. Give Denver credit, right? Denver's got a little something special right now. Denver just put together the best 8-day stretch of anyone in the NBA. They beat us at home, injured. They went to Milwaukee and got in at 4:30 in the morning and won without like 3 starters. They ran out of gas. They were up 20 and then ran out of gas against Detroit, which makes sense. They came back home and shut down Dame, and then they beat us on a back end of a back-to-back. It's pretty interesting. I mean, give Denver some real credit. Denver's up their game better than us right now, right? So that we've been 2 very similar programs at the same stage, doing stuff. Give them credit. Give Denver credit. That's what we want to be. They played that way. Let's hopefully our guys learn something from it. After the roster changes on both sides, Houston still seems to be the worst matchup for us if the Jazz face them for the 3rd time in the first round. Yeah, the 4-5 matchup with Houston, just with them playing PJ Tucker at the center, which, wow. just couldn't imagine playing them a third straight time in the playoffs, but we might be there. 6 is Dallas with Kristaps Porzingis at the 5. I mean, Rudy's, if we hold to 3 or 4, we're going to get Houston or Dallas at this point. Unless if Oklahoma City trades Gallinari, will be interesting to see what they do. That could be a little disheartening for that group, though. Chris Paul is such a fighter that I would be surprised if he allows that to happen. I think that he would probably be able to fight through that. Your guy, Aaron Gordon, is on the trade block. Can we get him? I'm not sure he's my guy anymore. From Brandon Whiteside's. He actually made a play against us that changed my opinion of him. Actually, a single-handedly one play changed my opinion of a little bit on Aaron Gordon. We were playing them. They were in control. He pulled up for a selfish transition 3, which is not anything, 1, that he's good at, 2, that the team needed, and it swung the game back in our direction. And it just struck me as a lack of basketball feel or teammate awareness or game flow for a guy who's been in the league that long. I didn't like it. Really struck me. Probably why I'm a podcaster and not a general manager. You probably can't let individual plays, but that play reeked to me of, 1, he shouldn't be taking it off the bounce pull-up 3 in transition. 2, the game flow. They had scored, I think, 7 straight, and they were on a pretty good run, and that wasn't what he should be doing in that play. And 2, it felt a little bit like it was his turn. Most important question, Mayor Bear wants to know if I'm hitting the slopes today. So I should have been. Both kids got a little bit of the bug right now, so I'm like trying to get to All-Star break. I mean, I went down to Restore that cryotherapy and did an IV drip the other day to try to get my immunity boost up, and I woke up, helped get the kids ready, and went back to bed for 2 hours to get my 8 hours of sleep. I was up till 1:30 rewatching the game. So I would like to go hit the slopes for a little bit today, but I've actually kind of screwed up my day, and with the trade deadline, I probably need to be around and near in case something happens. So I would like to. I will be up at Snow Basin on Friday after shoot around, and I will try to be at Snowbird before we fly on Saturday to watch my kids race. So, and I think if I remember correctly, Mayor Bear, your mom is like a host at Snow Basin. How about that for knowing your listening audience? All right, let's see. We're probably running out of time here. Yeah, we're at 37 minutes. The director of the Lockdown Podcast Network would be very mad at us for going too long with this show. Let me see if I can just grab a few more. Is there a possibility too much individual play instead of team play? There's been some great individual games. Some of the players have been off a little bit lately. I think, so Joshua, overall, we moved the basketball last night. Our pass numbers it wasn't one of those nights like opening night where we had 240 passes or 270. We were in the 320s with passes. So in that sense, we were moving the ball. I did think, as I said, that there was a stretch in the third quarter where, I thought guys kind of were taking their turns a little bit. And it's just very, again, I don't mean this to say that it's bad. It's just different right now, right? Mike's bringing the ball up the floor and Mike's getting us into the offense, which he was great last night. He was our best player. At least on the offensive end, and I have to reevaluate who's the best player on the defensive end. And it's a little bit of a change. And Mike's instinct is to shoot. Mike scored 21 points a game last year as the number one option late in the game. Mike comes off a pick late in the game. He thinks he's supposed to shoot if he's open, which he was. And so that's a little different. And we'll have to figure it out. Now, frankly, last night, we ran a play for Donovan. He hits a pull-up jumper, but Donovan also had, 2 or 3 brutal turnovers late, right? Mike had a bad turnover late. So we're in a bump on the season. That's undeniable in a 5-game losing streak. Melding Mike back in is a change. It's a primary ball handler. We now have 3 of them. This is part of the process, right? This is, and truthfully, it's not, I don't think it's entirely stunning to those involved. I think that they realized this was going to be a process that was going to be tough for them to figure out. I think they went through at the beginning of the year, and then they played significantly lesser opponents and got some things figured out. And now they're playing better opponents trying to figure it out again. So, that's tough, right? That's tough. So there's pieces of this thing that have to get figured out. And everyone's probably down a few touches. I'll try to run some numbers today if I don't get out on the slopes for too long, and see if there's a touch and a time of possession and there's some actual data that can show us what we're talking about here. But there's no question. Let's see. Just trying to find any last questions, trying to represent everybody. Is there any chance the Jazz surprise us with a trade today? My feeling is no. What do you think? I think, they're active, they're involved, they're making calls. Is there a chance they do something? Yes. Is there, a major shakeup? It doesn't seem like you can play the salaries on that. There have been some deals that have been made where, as I talked about yesterday, like Alex Len and Noah Vonleh have both moved. Do you drop in on the backside of one of those deals that's not completely finalized yet and pull another big over? I don't know. Is there a way to get a 4-5 somewhere? I don't know how we entirely do that. So we'll have to figure that. I think it's unlikely. I mean, I know this is like trade deadline, and we're now 2 hours and 23 minutes away, and we probably should be talking about trade deadline. I just don't see the assets that we have to be able to make that deal and do those kind of things. So I don't really expect that. Boy, there are just a lot of comments and a lot of people on this. I apologize if I'm not getting to everyone. There were some plays where Gobert had a mismatch, but I thought was too far underneath the basket to get the ball. Joshua, this is a great point. There were a bunch of plays last night where Gobert sprints the floor, gets to the rim, posts up. Jamal Murray is defending him, and we didn't get Gobert the ball. And I need to try to understand that one a little bit. There's two aspects to that. One is if Rudy's going to run the floor, which they've been pounding Rudy to do, to get down to the rim and run the floor, I kind of feel like you got to throw him the ball every now and then. Now, is Rudy doing something where he doesn't look open to those guys, or the ball's not on an angle and Rudy doesn't make himself available enough? I don't know the answer to that. Is it a harder pass than it looks on television? Probably, because there's a defender on you and we're being very cognizant of not turning the ball over. So I don't entirely know what's going on there, but I do think it's a really good point on your part. The Jazz need a couple massage at Spa Via. Yes, they actually do. That is probably a fair point. Joe and Conley are both good, but they seem to take away from each other's games. Frustrating. Might be some truth to that. To some extent, they're both point guards. And they've got to figure that out. Joe is really good when he's a primary ball handler. Yes, he is, but he wasn't always that way, right? And for us to be great, I'm not sure that that's the answer, that Joe's the primary ball handler. Maybe. But and Quinn will adjust to these things. He's a master at this. But at the same time, and it's hard. It's hard to come up and down the floor and not touch it every now and not get touches. I think that's really, really hard. A bunch of people are saying that Aaron Baines is their favorite option. I think the Jazz would love to do that. That would be the classic example of Phoenix feels as though they have to get some sort of asset for Baines before he leaves. And so the Jazz don't have a lot to offer. They've been talking to Phoenix. Phoenix shops Baines around. Nothing else is available, and they call at the last second and say, we'll do it. That's kind of the concept of what I'm talking about this whole time with, we just don't have enough assets to call someone and get a deal done right now. It has to happen the other way around. All right, that is Locked On Jazz today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate you. 5 in a row is not fun. We'll be all right, I think. Yeah, we'll be all right. We got a master as a head coach. We got a lot of talent. We got good guys. We got all the principles that will allow this thing to turn it back around. And they've got, the nice thing is they've played well enough that they have 30 games to figure it out and get ready for the playoffs. It is Locked On.